don't know, Paul. I don't know. I'm looking. Looks like it's looks good, doesn't it? Looks really good.
You think it looks good?
How are the Buffalo Bills looking, Paul? That's what I want to know.
Oh yes, look at that. What's up, everybody? Boy, what a day! What a day! What a day! Mario, can I tell you how wonderful it is to see your scruffy, gray-chinned face? It's been a while. The folks have missed you. I'm not you. Let's just say that. They definitely know I'm not you.
They definitely do, and I was trying to play it up and be a little bit funny with the John Wick. I think I'm back. For everybody, what's up, Hashtag Nation? I've missed your ugly mugs for a couple weeks now, but Hashtag Studios is off and running as far as where I'm currently seated. So it's gonna be a good time, especially with the Buffalo Bills. We're talking Bills is always fun, so we're going to do the 53-man roster. I advise all of Hashtag Nation to keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times because it's going to be a little bit of a bumpy ride tonight. We're going to be talking about the 53, some of the very surprising cuts, Trey's extension, and we may dive into a little bit of the defensive philosophy that may be coming up in 2020 for the Buffalo Bills. A few of those things. So, like I said, we got Daniel, Cody, Apex, Stefan, Evan. We got the usual suspects in the chat already. We're going to be hitting up that chat quite a bit.
I see. CG Clip 716. You know who that is?
I see the big dog.
What's up?
Good old Clayton. How you doing, Clayton? Good to see you, buddy.
He does all the dirty work. He gets all the hard jobs.
He is the grinder among grinders.
He is.
It's pretty great.
He is.
Paul, so on a scale of 1 to 10, right out of the gates, the cuts, the 53-man roster, your level of surprise for the 53 from 1 to 10? How surprised were you?
There's a couple guys on there, and every year there's always a few guys that kind of make you scratch your head a little bit. And you're like, man, I just didn't see that guy being as dialed in as we thought. But I just want to point out, and this was brought up on Twitter. I think it's a great point. Just because they're on the initial 53 does not mean they're going to be on tomorrow's 53. Because remember, waivers are all going to happen, and teams get a little bit of time to try and pick up any players that are available via waivers. They have to add them to their 53-man roster, which means a guy on the 53 could drop off. So even though we have some guys on the initial 53, just be warned that tomorrow's 53 or Monday's 53 may not be the same as today's. Just as an example, right? So you got John Feliciano. He's got to go on IR. The Bills are going to make a subsequent move. That's going to be tomorrow. So there's definitely some moving parts here, but I'm really happy. I don't think there's too many surprises on there. You got some names, but nothing that I'm really concerned about at this point. There's no name that jumps out. I'm like, oh man, I can't believe they cut that guy. I understand every single one of these cuts.
I do too, but there's a couple that I said if I were to gauge my level of surprise, and Paul will get into it a little bit more because there are some new doings as far as the practice squad, the eligibility for the practice squad, and certain things intertwined in there as well. Obviously, everyone's favorite running back, Christian Wade, still has practice squad eligibility. We're going to have to see about that. You start talking about Andre Roberts, Duke Williams, Robert Foster, Jason Kroom, Dane Jackson. Sorry, Paul. Trey Adams. Sorry again, Paul. The one that surprised me, though, was Vincent Taylor with the opt-out of Star Lotulelei. They still went. That to me signifies Phillips is John Wick. He is back, and he's at full force because if they were to cut him, I don't believe he has any practice squad eligibility left, Taylor.
Well, hold on. This is where things are a little different.
Okay, that's why I want you to explain.
Yeah, so practice squad for 2020 is different than practice squad from 2019. First off, with the new collective bargaining agreement, they are going to expand practice squad to 12 players, not 10. But for 2020, they've actually expanded it to 16 players. So the original 10 practice, right? And the original 10 practice squad spots are exactly the way that they used to be. Players with 2 or less accrued seasons can end up on the practice squad. They have to be waived, which if you have under 4 years of experience, that's what all those players are going through right now. They're going through waivers Any team could pick them up, add them to their 53-man roster. But if they clear waivers and nobody picks them up, the Bills can then sign them to the practice squad. Now, those are the first 10 spots. Yep. The next 6 spots are reserved for players of 3 or more accrued seasons to an unlimited number, right? So if you could put any veteran on the practice squad. Now, mind you, they have to be cut and go through free agency, right? They're not subject to waivers. Yeah. But if they wanted to cut Trent Murphy and say, we're going to cut you right now, we're going to put you on the practice squad, and he signs that deal, that's on him, right? Yeah. But you could actually put any veteran player on your practice squad as well once they have been cut, once they go through free agent, they become a free agent. They'll probably want to test the waters a little bit, but ultimately, if they have a practice squad option, they could sign with any team's practice squad at those 6 veteran slots. So a really very different year than any year that we've ever had.
Interesting enough, you brought up Trent Murphy, but I think the name that would fit that description that you had perfectly would be Dean Marlowe. They did cut Dean Marlowe. However, because he has so many accrued seasons, he could be one of those 6 veterans they bring back because he has been in the system. And as we were talking about before the show even started, you talk about, why cut a Dean Marlowe versus a Del'Shawn Phillips? Well, Phillips was here last year. We did real quick. He's a name that not a lot of people probably know, but the fact that he was in camp. He was a free agent, signed with Atlanta, but he came with the Buffalo Bills in October of last year. He is in that very thin group, though, of linebackers. So I think that's where he had the edge up on a Dean Marlowe, where, I wouldn't be surprised if Marlowe was to make one of the 6 spots or Taylor was to make one of those. You know what I mean? Obviously, they're going to shop their wares around the league to see if they can actually make a 53, but it doesn't hurt them in the fact that if they are on the practice squad and they do get signed by another team, it doesn't mean that they can't, their agents can't look around for them because they'll immediately go to a 53 now, which is something that they would wonderfully covet.
And the difference with practice squads this year is now the team will be able to protect 4 players every week on the practice squad from being able to take offers from other teams, and they'll be able to call up 2 players or a player from the practice squad twice without subjecting them to waivers. So it's really a very, very different.
Very unique.
It is, yeah. And I know Dean Marlowe and Andre Roberts were talked about as guys who would likely be re-signing with the Bills tomorrow after they make those listed roster moves, like move Feliciano to IR. There's some roster positioning that has to happen. And once those are done, Marlowe and Andre Roberts were talked about as guys who would re-sign at that point. But again, if the Bills claim anybody off of waivers, we're not really going to know till tomorrow. And the waiver priority, a couple things about that. Waiver priority is set as same as the draft order. And let's just say the Bengals wanted to pick up 5 players on waivers. It's not like fantasy football where if you pick up one guy, you have to go to the bottom of the waiver order. No, since he's first the whole time. So they get carte blanche. If they just want to absolutely, rake on the waiver wire, they'll be first every single time.
They're going to pillage everybody.
They could, right? Yeah, they could. And that reminds me, if you guys want in, we are doing the hashtag fantasy football league and the survivor poll again. Email hashtagsports@gmail.com. And we're going to do that. The fantasy football league is going to be like 20 guys, and the survival can be as many as we want. So we'll do that again. hashtagsports@gmail.com if you want, and I'll send you the invite info.
Absolutely. But you guys make sure you get on that. The other thing is this, and it doesn't pertain to the Bills, but it is something that coincides with it and has happened with the Buffalo Bills before. And I'm going to drop this on Paul. He doesn't know what I'm going to say. I love seeing the look on his face when he doesn't know what I'm going to tell him. You look at the situation, just real quick, in Washington with Adrian Peterson. Now, veterans like that, Paul, can you explain? Because it happened with, I believe, who was it? Was it Mike Tolbert?
No, it wasn't Tolbert. It was the other fullback that the Bills had under
Bills
Rex
had a
Ryan.
Fullback. Yeah, Bills had.
It's gonna drive me nuts.
Bills had a fullback which they cut, and everyone was like, "Why'd they cut him?" Now this is a business move. But what Paul's going to explain to you guys, what's possibly happening with Adrian Peterson, is a business move. So why don't you explain how that veteran savvy business move works a little bit?
Right. So what happens is once you have a vested veteran on your roster.
Felton? No, it wasn't Felton.
Yeah, it was. It was Jerome Felton.
So that's thank you to Cody Stacks in the chat. Thank you, Cody.
Thank you, Cody, very much. Yeah. So it was Jerome Felton. He did not make the original 53-man roster, and the Bills cut him. And everybody goes, well, why'd they cut Jerome Felton? Everybody thought he was a lock to make the team. And the whole reason was they cut him so they could re-sign him after week 1. The reason that is because if you have a vested veteran on your roster effective week 1, their salary can be guaranteed for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So it's with Adrian Peterson, Washington cuts him. They save themselves $2.5 million this year on the cap. And then after week 1, they could just re-sign him. And now his salary is not guaranteed anymore. Yep. So it's kind of like what the Bills did with the linebacker they just traded for from the Panthers. Everybody goes, well, they cut this guy. Why'd they cut him? Well, first off, he only practiced with the team for a total of 1 hour, according to Joe Biscaglia. and that deal was a conditional 7th round draft pick if he made the roster. Well, they cut him. So now that trade capital isn't there anymore. The Bills could just re-sign him again or add him to the practice squad, whatever they're going to do. And they've acquired him without giving up a single thing. So a fascinating little sleight of hand by Brandon Beane to avoid draft pick compensation. Yeah, that's right. Daniel Gari says they had little Gronk. They had Dan Gronk. Was it Dan Gronkowski?
Oh, boy.
Glenn Gronkowski. Glenn.
Phil.
Glenn Gronkowski.
Randy, whoever the hell it was. I only said Randy because Stefan said savage move, and I was thinking of Randy Macho Man for a second. But, ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time at Hashtag Sports, make sure you go and turn that that red subscribe button gray. Make sure that you can get updated on the Buffalo Bills progress weekly. It was Glenn. Okay, Daniel Garvey comes in and says Glenn. We have a new subscriber. John Vernon we just wanted to announce. He's a new subscriber. He said he didn't know why it took him so long, and Paul obviously responded with "Fear not, we got you. Don't worry about it." So that being said, we're talking about the roster. We're talking about some of these guys. They could end up on the Bills. So some of these cuts really aren't going to be cuts. You know what I mean? So some of these guys could make their way back. James Sanders says, "What about Wade?" You know what I mean? We haven't really heard too much about the darling of the 2019 preseason. Actually, were the rules changed on the international program as well, Paul? I think there was something that was huge about that.
Yeah. So what happens with the international program is you get the original rules, which were part of the program when it got launched in 2016. Not effective till 2017, but an international player got roster exemption and he was eligible for an extra practice squad spot. And that was only supposed to last for 1 season. And then the next year, if the team brought him back, he was preseason roster exempt, but then he would be treated just like any other player. Well, this year, they've actually extended that. So Christian Wade could, again, go on the practice squad and be a 17th player. He'd be ineligible to come back. But it is possible for Christian Wade to come back as part of the international program. But again, he would be exempt from being reactivated. So I don't really know if you want to do that with, what is he, 29?
At 29, ladies and gentlemen, he is 29 years old, a running back who formerly played rugby, so his knees are probably awful. They're probably worse than Jenna Jameson's at this point. So let's just keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. No, but obviously, you talk about. I think someone put it in the chat about. Carmen Pagano, guys, please stop with Wade and Duke. This is not the same old Bills organization. I mean, we started to see how much of a savage that Brandon Beane is, which should bring us to our next topic. We're talking about Trey White. Paul, you harped on this for a year and a half, probably 2 years, and I think you were the only one that harped on it this much, was that the Buffalo Bills had to beat the New Orleans Saints specifically to the table for Marshawn Lattimore. Now, this is a new market value that gets set. Trey is the highest paid cornerback in the league as of right now. Mm-hmm. So he signs a 4-year extension. What that means, and I'll just give the nuts and bolts really quick of it. It was 4 years, $70 million, $55 is guaranteed. However, that the juice doesn't start running on that until the 2022 season.
Right.
So he plays out this year at his current contract. He plays his 5th-year option out deal. That's why that's where a lot of the guaranteed money comes in. That 5th-year option is going to be his guaranteed money. And then the juice starts running from 2022 to 2023, 24, 25 is where the 4 for 70 comes in with the $55 million guarantee. But the Bills lock up a cornerstone of their defense. Do you believe that Josh Norman had any part in that re-signing for Trey White?
Yeah, so I feel like, and Mark, just Apex says to move your mic a little closer to you. So
You never
is
like
your,
listening to me. I don't
oh
know
God,
why.
please put that sultry voice away. All right. So what I'm thinking is your question is really saying, because Josh Norman left Carolina and his life exploded in Washington, which I guess is kind of par for the course when you sign with Washington. So are you saying that Josh Norman gave Trey White advice to say stick with McDermott? This is the golden goose, like stay the course, stay?
He is the
Or are you
quarterback
saying that
whisperer.
or are you saying that because or like is that what you're really saying? Because I feel like that's what your question's really directed at.
I don't see. I'm just, how I like putting my tin hat on every once in a while. But
Yeah.
we did see the career path of Josh Norman, who went to find the money instead of the team. He was the defensive player of the year, playing under a McDermott led defense in Carolina. He left where all souls go to die in Washington. So the fact of he could have been in his ear a little bit to say, listen, I know you could probably shop your wares. You could probably go to another team, another this and that, or the third. But if you stay here, you've already got the system down. You already got the team, the community. You're very heavily entrenched in the community. Everything going on. Mike Trotter. I'm not even going to address that comment. I swear, I'm not even addressing that comment. But the point of that being is that he could have gotten to be the highest paid player. I'm thinking about it in the reverse now, because when Norman left, that secondary went to hell.
Sure did.
Yeah. It eventually got better, but
Right.
initially it went to hell. So maybe McDermott and Bean are like, listen, we can't have this happen again like it did in Carolina. We have to lock this guy up. We have to lock this guy up. And now, of the Holy Trinity that we've talked about the entire summer and the entire offseason, you talk about Dawkins, Milano, and Trey, two of them are down. So, I mean, we're still going to talk about Trey White right now, but then we're going to eventually shift over to Milano. What does this mean for Matt Milano in the 2020 season and beyond? I think it's just very, very interesting to talk about. But Trey White is now locked up for the Buffalo Bills until 2025.
Love it. Yep, love it. You're getting him to, I think 31 is where he's going to now, and
Yes.
it's what you had to do, without a doubt. You had to beat Marshawn Lattimore to the table. You who knows when Gilmore's going to hit the free market again. You had to, because Belichick's nuts, so anything's possible, right? So yeah, there's some guys that you had to beat in the market. You had to beat them, and the Bills did it. I was getting a little nervous when you see contracts start signing. You see Deshaun Watson's extension, then you see Keenan Allen's extension. You're like, whoa, okay. Clearly, there's some pressure to get these deals done now, and the fact that it's a true extension and they're not renegotiating his rookie option.
Yes,
you're getting Trey White at a bargain basement price for the next 2 years. It's brilliant. They had a similar thought process with Dawkins, and if this is the way they're going to handle giving their guys long-term extensions, then guess what that means, Mario? That means that after January 1st of next season, we could start talking about Josh Allen and Josh Allen true extension. We could start talking about Tremaine Edmonds true extensions, right? Where they're going to let them play out and then see what happens.
So for the initially, because you want to talk about it's going to be 5 technically for 82 is what it is, right? 5 for 82 with the 2021. I just want to see if we get the numbers right. So for the 2021 season, that's his option year. He's going to be 26 years old. It's 10 million guaranteed. Or it's going to be 10 million. He's currently for 2020 making 3.2. So if you want to think about it in this respect, as far as the numbers go, am I correct in saying that they got Tre'Davious White 6 years, $85 million?
Yeah.
Because of the 3 years for his rookie deal to be completed. But we want to just let you guys know that mostly they buy out the last year of the deal, correct? And because he was a first rounder, usually you see these guys that are drafted in the second round and beyond because they only have 4-year deals. What they'll do is the fourth year, they'll renegotiate that year and they won't let him play out that year.
Right.
So this is actually very smart on Bean's part. So now you got Trey White for the next 6 seasons for $85 million. $55 million is obviously guaranteed. Probably like 56 or 7 because of the 2020 season. But what a deal. What a deal for Bean and the Buffalo Bills to lock up a cornerstone of their defense that they don't have to worry about for the next 6 seasons, barring injury. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the AFC. YouTube's not receiving enough video to maintain. Is that interesting?
Oh yeah. No, it skipped out a little bit. It's no big deal.
All right. It was only me talking, so it doesn't matter. Point being is this. We always talked about the contracts of Dawkins, White, and Milano that would bleed into the Ed Olivers, the Tremaine Edmonds, the Josh Allens. What does this mean for, if we could just touch on it really quick, what does this mean for Matt Milano?
Yeah, that's a big one, right?
It's huge.
I mean, you have to talk about casualties at some point.
Yes.
And Milano is a little undersized. Again, if I'm Brandon Bean, I'm willing to let Milano try the market, because when the salary cap's going to go down $30 million, and Milano's typically, by most standards, an undersized linebacker who can only play in a 4-3. You're not having him play in a 3-4. So I'm willing to let him test the market, because I know almost half the teams in the league can't sign him, because he'd be foolish to go into it. They'd be foolish to sign him into a 3-4. I'm willing to let him test the market. I am. And I hate to put somebody to the coals for that, but it's true. I'm willing to let Milano test the market. I've been saying that for a year. And now that Trey's locked in and you start following the money, Josh Allen, Tremaine Edmonds, I mean, Milano's the odd man out there. He is.
Unfortunately.
He is. But what do you think? Do you think Edmonds' progression is the way that it has been because of Milano? And do you think losing him is going to set Edmonds back? Or do you think Edmonds is the player that he is just because that's the player that he is?
Well, let me ask you this. At the end of the 2018 season of Tremaine Edmonds' rookie season, Milano went out for 3 games, and they were dropping Poyer a lot of times down in the box. Did you happen to see his production? Now, we can always attribute it to a couple different things. We can attribute it that, these rookies that come in, they're playing 16 games now. It's their job. They're professionals. They're playing against men now. You could say that his production near the end of the season started to slack off because of that, or this production started to slack off because Milano was not there. I don't know that. We always have this question with the chicken or the egg with Poyer and Hyde. How would one play without the other if you didn't have both of them? We don't know, because we never experienced that. I think the progression of Tremaine Edmonds has been such because of the characters that are around him and because of who the kid is. He's an athletic freak. You don't have to do anything physically to the kid for him to progress and be a heck of a player. It's all mental for him, and he's been progressing nicely. With Milano being the odd man out, I would go so far as to give him a transition tag and let him shop his wares. You know what I mean? Let him. Okay, you want to go out? Let's see what your worth is actually, and then you can come back to us, because I don't think the Bills have used a franchise tag, transition tag in a few years.
Right.
They really haven't.
We're buffering a little bit right now, Mar. So you're right. Right. The Bills haven't used any of those tags. Yeah, it says we're buffering. Do you see it in OBS or anything?
Yeah. No, but OBS, we're fine. On the screen, We're fine. We are initially buffering. Let me close this out. So maybe that'll help it. But the dashboard looks good.
Okay.
It's their internets. It's the interwebs. The stream is poor health.
Poor health? What does that even mean?
I don't know. We can hear Mario, but the video is frozen.
Okay, well, at least you could hear us. All right. So the Bills only get one tag now every year, right? Franchise tag, transition tag. They can use one of those. Could they transition tag Milano? Sure, but is he going to get a deal like that on the open